good evening everyone and welcome to Wednesday Night Live. I am Tanja Kraus and I'm joining you on our Tanja Kraus Horsemanship Facebook page for our regular Wednesday show. We go live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and we cover different topics every week. So as everyone starts arriving, feel free to go ahead and hit that share button or the like button, or I'm not exactly sure what you guys are seeing on your screen at the moment, but you've probably got some little button to invite friends or share or something like that. So please feel free to do that and invite people along to watch the live tonight. So tonight what we are talking about in regards to our Wednesday Night Live is finding clarity in our journey. And I'm really looking forward to covering this topic tonight because it is something that I see so many different people struggle with. I get to meet so many different people around the world who come along to my clinics, and inevitably we end up talking about the journey and how they've come to be at a clinic or talking to me or what have you. And what I find a lot of, and I have to say hello to everyone, thank you so much for joining. I can see all the comments starting to roll in, but my screen is so far away from me that I cannot read it. So I will definitely read them all and comment back to you when I finish the live tonight. So thank you all for joining, I really appreciate it. And please do definitely keep commenting because I love to get the comments at the end. So finding clarity in our journey, and what I wanted to cover tonight was just a few simple points, I guess, in regards to finding clarity and also staying on track. So probably a couple of tips and probably a couple of questions that you can ask yourself in regards to your journey and whether you're really clear about where you're going and what you're wanting to achieve. The reason this topic came about, as I said, I meet a lot of people at courses and things like that, and what I tend to find is that there's so much information out there. I think we are absolutely in an amazing time. Technology just gets better and better. You guys are sitting there watching me live. Probably a lot of you are probably watching on your mobile devices, which 10 years ago would never have been heard of, that so many people would be able to tune in and watch and listen live. And we've got so many platforms for sharing information, and we've got so many different styles of information and ways to get information out there. So of course, we're doing video at the moment. I write a lot of articles for magazines. I write articles for my own newsletter that goes out. I put up Facebook posts. We've got Instagram posts. We've got podcasts. We've got YouTube. We've got all these different ways for us to get information, and that's without even walking out of our front door. And then we really are in an era where we've got so many people, so many clinicians and coaches and things like that who are actually able to get their information out there, and you guys have an incredible amount of access to it. So I really do understand that it can be really confusing and it can be a real minefield out there in regards to choosing, I guess, what style to follow, or choosing, comparing it one article to another and going, well, which one's right and which one's wrong, and it kind of gets all muddled up. And I meet a lot of people that are a little bit confused because, last week they got told one thing and then they come to my clinic and they get told another thing. So what I wanted to cover tonight was probably some of the ways that we can clear that out a little bit and have a little bit of clarity in what we want, what we're trying to achieve. So the first tip that I'm going to talk about is actually taking the time to sit down and really think about what it is that you're trying to achieve with your horse. And I guess I like writing things down, but even just sitting there with a blank piece of paper and a pen and really just thinking, what are some of the words that would describe what I'm trying to achieve with my horse? Why have I got a horse? Am I looking to win and compete at competitions? Am I looking to be safe? Am I looking to build confidence? Am I looking to build a relationship with the horse and actually have something, have a bit of a relationship there where we're both interested and excited to see each other? Do I just want to have fun? Is it social time for me? Is it my business? Do I want to go out and teach people professionally? Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to be an equine professional? Maybe I'm doing courses and things like that to try and enhance my knowledge of body work, or maybe I'm a hoof professional, or maybe I'm a vet, or any of the above. I think it's really important because I often see that our goals and our ideas from where we started can sometimes begin to change as we start to find out about maybe new disciplines or new things that are available to us in our area, or maybe we sort of started out thinking, I'm going to go and be an eventer because that's what I did when I was 18 years old or 15 years old, but now I'm 40 and I kind of think that maybe I don't want to be an eventer anymore because it's a lot scarier than I remember it being. So I think, it's okay to sit down and, sit down on your own and really think about what you're trying to achieve with your horse. And obviously it may be a combination of multiple things. I'm sure that a lot of you are sort of listening to the words and saying, well, of course I want to have a relationship, and of course I want to be confident, and of course I want to go out and have fun with my friends and have social time. So I think then the next step on building on that is maybe talking to your closest people around you and sort of saying to them, why do you think I got a horse? What were some of the things that I, talk about, and what are some of the things that I talk about when I come inside from being with my horse? Do I talk about the relationship? Do I talk about how much fun I had? Do I talk about, the training that I got to do? And this will start to give you a little bit of indication and insight into what you're really trying to achieve by owning a horse and by having a horse. I think once you've got that little bit of whether it's affirmation on what you're currently doing, or maybe you'll have a realization about, I really don't want to do eventing anymore, or jumping, or, galloping, doing a 100-kilometer endurance ride. Maybe that's not what I want to do anymore. So I think that it's going to be okay for you to have that experience, whether, as I say, it's affirming what you're doing, whether you come to a realization that maybe you do want to change what you're doing, or, it simply affirms that you're on the right track and you're going to stick to exactly what it is that you started out to do when you first got a horse. The second tip that I'm going to give, or the second thing that I want to talk about in regards to finding clarity, is committing to blocks of time on a particular philosophy, or even with a particular trainer or coach or practitioner, or whatever it is that you want to call them. One of the things that I see people doing, and depending on where you are in your horsemanship journey or horse journey, I think the earlier you are in your journey, whether it's restarting a journey after not having had horses for a long time, whether you're a complete beginner, whether you're a competent rider but you've got a new horse, whether you're a competent rider and you're starting a new discipline, anything like that, I think the earlier it is in your journey, the longer time period you need to commit to training a particular style or a particular philosophy or a particular trainer or things like that. I'm not saying not to read articles or watch, shows or videos that you see on, Facebook and all the other things that we mentioned earlier. It's not about not consuming content from a wide range of areas, but I think you're really going to find clarity if you stick to a particular coach or a particular practitioner and absorb their content to the greatest degree that you can, even if you only end up doing that for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, or maybe you know, fall in love with this particular line of training and, you know, you do it for the rest of your life. It's not about having an end date to it, but it's about committing to sticking with that style or that, you know, discipline or whatever for that period of time until something really tells you, I need to change, or I want to go and you know, maybe try something new or something like that. And the reason I say this is because I meet so many people who will come to a clinic and they might say, oh, well, I'm at your clinic this weekend, and last week I was at such and such a clinic, and the week before that I was at such and such a clinic. And when I say to them, oh, well, you know, have you trained with you know, have you trained a particular discipline or clinician or something like that for an extended period of time, they will often say, oh no, I just like to see what everybody's doing and I just kind of go from one to the next, or you know, I like to make my own style from taking little tidbits from all the styles, which is, you know, 100% fine and all the rest of it, and I'm certainly not discouraging that, but I believe we need to have a really solid foundation or a really solid base in order to allow us to make decisions from that base. Whether it's not necessarily comparative, but I think having a solid line and a solid base is going to offer us the opportunity to go a little bit deeper in what it is we're actually trying to. It's also going to give us the opportunity to go a little bit deeper in regards to maybe an area of expertise that we'd like to focus on. So maybe we're going to be really passionate about biomechanics, or maybe we're going to be really passionate about self-carriage, or maybe we're going to be really passionate about confidence in the horse. Maybe we're going to be really passionate about different areas. And so I think when you've got that really solid foundation, or that really solid learned base from a particular specific style or practitioner, it's going to allow you to discover what areas really interest you, and whether your practitioner can provide that learning for you, or whether you need to, you know, go on to a different thing or take a different road. So definitely committing to blocks of time within, you know, a discipline or a particular coach or trainer or something like that, I think can really help offer us a really solid base for our learning. The first question that I think we need to ask ourselves beyond, you know, what it is that we're wanting to achieve with our horses and things like that, I think what we need to ask ourselves in regards to a particular training style or philosophy or a practitioner or whatever it is, I think we need to ask ourselves, does it resonate with me? Does it feel good when I'm following this particular style? So when it comes to finding clarity, I meet a lot of people that might say, you know, I've been told to do this when my horse mucks up, or I've been told to do this when my horse lacks confidence. And you can tell, and certainly after I ask a few questions, it becomes apparent that they've been told to do this specific action, so to speak, but the action actually doesn't really resonate with them, but they do it because they don't know of anything else to do. So I think it's really important to ask ourselves, am I comfortable? Do I feel okay doing this style or doing these actions when I'm communicating with my horse and when I'm doing training with my horse? Am I comfortable with this approach? So whether it's a learning method, so, you know, positive reinforcement, negative punishment, positive punishment, whether it's one of the categories of learning styles, which there are 4 of, which I just mentioned, and maybe you're attending courses or reading articles from a practitioner who subscribes to a particular learning style for the horse, and maybe that really doesn't resonate with you. Maybe you sort of go, you know what, I understand why I'm doing this, but that's not the way that I want to communicate with my horse. And so that would be an indicator to you of maybe you need to look into other practitioners or into other coaches and things like that to see if it makes a little bit more, it resonates with you. So if it feels good when you're doing the training and the things that you're being taught, then you're probably on the right track, and you can probably you know, you can have that clarity in that you're on the right track, even though your neighbor might be doing something else or your friend might be doing something else. If it resonates with you, then I think that's a really good way to tell whether you're happy enough to stick with it. And you know, there is a little bit of a, you know, an asterisk there, or a little bit of a disclaimer there, in the form of sometimes when we first start learning about horses and we first start learning how they learn, we might need to do things that we don't really like to do, or we didn't feel like we don't understand what we're doing. So I want you to I suppose make a difference, or set a line there, and know, you know, does it not resonate with me because I don't understand it, or I'm having to change my thinking, which is sometimes a really positive and good thing, or does it not resonate with me because it challenges my core beliefs, and it challenges me fundamentally, it challenges my approach to all animals and things like that. Bearing in mind that horses are very different from dogs and cats and things like that. So we have to understand the physiology and the psychology behind the horses before we start making decisions about, well, I don't want to do that because, you know, I'd rather just give him cuddles all day. That kind of approach isn't really going to help you. And so being aware of that little, I suppose, side note in regards to that resonation with you. The next question that we need to ask ourselves when we're talking about finding clarity and we're feeling a little bit mixed up is, does it work for you? Does it seem to be working for you and for the horse? Does it make sense to you when you apply the techniques that you've learned and been taught? Is it something that makes you go, you know what, this really works. When I get it right, it works. I love it. My horse loves it. You know, maybe progress is slow, maybe progress is fast, who knows? But if it feels like it's working for you and your horse, then that's a pretty good reason to stick with what you're doing, and a pretty good reason to, unless of course it challenges you. I meet a lot of people, particularly in my line of work, we're teaching horsemanship obviously. I meet a lot of people that are coming to horsemanship after many, many years in a traditional approach to horses, and sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, but they've arrived at this place because they are wanting to relate to the horse in a different way. So you may feel like it doesn't work for you. Again, this is one of those little asterisk things again. You may feel like something isn't working for you, but you know it is going to work when you get it right. Or you can see that it's working for you, and definitely if it's working for you and it's working for the horse and it doesn't challenge you ethically and it resonates with you, then that's a pretty good reason to stick with what you're doing and you know, calm all the white noise, I call it, because sometimes we can read all these articles and all these, you know, watch these videos and things like that, and you think to yourself, am I doing everything wrong? Should I be doing this? And then 2 days later, should I be doing that? And I think if you can look back on what you're doing and say, well, it's working for me, then that's your, you know, that's your little tick on your list, and you don't need to really worry about it in regards to having those kind of thoughts about, should I be changing, or should I be doing this or that? If what you're doing is working for you and it feels good to you and it feels good to your horse, then stick with it, and that gives you your little guideline in regards to that. The next tip I'm going to talk about in regards to finding clarity is finding a support group around you, and find people that are going to support you irrespective of whether they disagree with what you're doing. So again, in my line of work, I meet a lot of people that are coming to, you know, horsemanship, and horsemanship's been here in Australia for, you know, 30 plus years now. So we're certainly getting on the back end of it being fairly common around the traps, but it is a fairly new approach, and there's still some raised eyebrows every now and then, whereas obviously overseas it's been around for a lot longer. And I think sometimes it's really important if you're changing what you're doing because of ethical reasons or because something different resonates with you, then I think it's really important to have a support network around you and have people who are going to support you in those changes, because if you are moving away from a particular style or something like that, and you've got lots of friends and lots of people that you know in that style, they may be a little bit negative when they talk to you, or they may be a little bit challenging, or they may be, poking fun at this new way of things that you're doing things. And I think that's fine if you can have that thick skin and you can sort of say to those people, I've got clarity in what I'm doing, I really want to do that. And having people that are going to support you in what you're pursuing is really important to have that positive encouragement as well, in regards to having that clarity, knowing that you're practicing something that resonates with you, and you can turn to people who are of the same mindset, I suppose, surrounding yourself with like-minded people in a positive way. The next thing I want to talk about is if something makes sense to you. So a lot of, I suppose, disciplines or clinicians or practitioners or coaches or whatever you want to call it, I think a lot of things, there's a lot of background to each one of those. Like if you ask your coach, or if you read your coach's stuff, or you watch their videos and things like that, there will be a lot of background information about why they do things in a particular way, or at the very least, if you ask them why they do things in a particular way, I think they should be able to explain to you why they do something in a particular way. Or if you're confused about why you're doing something, if you ask them, they should be able to explain why you should do something in a particular way. And if that makes sense to you, then that's another tick off your list in regards to having clarity in what you're following and what you're doing with your horse. I think if someone explains something to you and you sort of go, oh, that doesn't really make sense to me, then again, if you're a brand new beginner, you're probably going to have a fairly long list of things that don't make sense to you. But if you've been in the horse industry and you've been around for a little while or even a long while, I think that we can kind of climb through all of that white noise and really get to the crux of an answer and really think to ourselves, yeah, that really makes sense to me. I understand why I'm going to apply this technique, or why I'm going to apply this philosophy in my training, and it sits well with me, and it makes sense that the horse is going to respond to it in a positive way. So if you're able to do that and you're able to tick all of those things off your list, I think then once you've found that little bit of clarity, it can help to re-ground you, and it can help to, I guess, reassure you that you're on the right track, or reassure you that you're doing what you think is best for you and what you think is best for your horse in this moment in time, in this period of time. And then you're able to consume different content without it confusing you and without it making you question what you're doing. I think if you've got your, you sit down and you go through everything that we've spoken about tonight, and you think to yourself, yep, I've done all that, I've got ticks all over my list, I know exactly what I'm wanting to do with my horse, the methodology or the philosophy that I'm following really resonates with me, it sits with me well ethically, my horse enjoys it, we enjoy each other's company, I feel good when I leave the arena, my horse feels good when he leaves the arena. I think that once you tick all those boxes and you feel solid in that knowledge, then I think you can consume lots of content from lots of different places with an open mind. I certainly am not saying that once you've ticked all your boxes that you should say, no, I completely refute any new information coming to me and I'm not going to absorb that content. And in fact, I'm going to read content just for the sole purpose of judging that content or challenging that content, I think you've gone too far. I think you've gone too far into a little bit of a cult system. I think what you need to do is consume that content with an open mind, and then you can sort of go, oh, that's really interesting, and that's an interesting concept, and you can kind of mull it over and think about it without it interfering with your clarity or your journey, until you're ready for it to interfere with your clarity or your journey, and it causes you to, think about or challenge or affirm what you are doing. So I hope that what we spoke about tonight makes sense to you. I hope that in my finding clarity, I was clear in trying to help you find clarity in your journey and what it is that you're doing. I really look forward to reading all of your comments. I can see the comments that have been coming up on the screen, so I'm looking forward to reading those when we tune out. And it was a pretty quick Wednesday night live. It might be even one of my quickest, which I'm really excited about. Sometimes I go well and truly over time, so a lot of you would have experienced that in the past. So this was a nice, short, quick session for you. I thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate your interest and you tuning in to watch the show. Please send me any comments or any topics that you would like me to talk about. I know a few of you may have sent me topics in the past. We have just completed a 2-week cult start, and then I did a 2-day course in Bangalore, and then I did a 3-day course in Coots Crossing. So I am absolutely still playing catch up with my text messages and my messenger messages and the messages to my Facebook account and my emails and all that sort of stuff. So please don't think that I'm ignoring messages that you've sent me. I will be definitely getting to them all over the next week or so, but please do keep sending me new topics, because obviously we need one every Wednesday night. So I look forward to receiving your topics. I hope you have all been having a great week with your horses, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Good night.